Here's the truth, man. 99% of advice online, and I don't exaggerate when I say this, it's not going to help you save your marriage. In fact, it is complete bull.
One of the things we often hear therapists say is that, gosh, I wish that couples would come to me sooner.
Right.
That by the time I get my hands on them to try to see if we can make something happen,
right,
it's usually too late.
Right. The sooner you can catch it upstream rather than downstream, the more success you're going to have. But I feel very hopeful when people, no matter when they come in.
You've tried those things, haven't you? Or at least a lot of them. And let me ask you, is your marriage better than before? So how did you get here? I mean, you knew things weren't really as good as they have been, right? Conversations have been more and more logical. You guys are good co-parents, but you're just ships passing in the night, right? Just a team, but the passion is gone. You'll plan some fun things on the weekend, right? With the kids especially, but if you were to pause, really think about it. You know deep down, your marriage and life is meant for more. The thing is, man, is that she knows it too. And that's why she's less physically intimate with you. It's why she's more demanding, more critical, more distracted. So what do? Well, you bury yourself in the one place that makes you feel competent, your work. But all the while, she is slowly slipping away more and more. You are stuck in a loop. And after working with thousands of men in your exact position, I can tell you that if you don't do something drastically different, you are headed for divorce. However, once you master this one skill, you will completely turn things around. So what is that skill? Well, do you know the best compliment that you can receive from your wife, that a wife can give a husband? Before you answer that, if she was here with me right now and I was having a conversation with your wife and I asked her a few questions, I said, do you 100% respect your husband? Do you want to tear his clothes off every single time you see him? Do you feel led by him? Would she say yes to any of those? Because a happy wife says yes to all of those every single time. So the biggest compliment that your wife can give you is to look at you dead in the eyes softly and say, I feel so safe with you. So we're going to examine 5 behaviors that I'm very confident you have been doing that has created a lack of safety in your marriage over the years. The first one is your lack of presence. You know those moments where you're on the phone with her, right? Like she calls, so you're going to answer the phone because you don't want her to get upset that you didn't answer the phone. So you answer the phone, but you're still like on your work email, or like someone's kind of talking to you, or someone comes in, or she knows you're distracted. And even if she doesn't make it a big deal at the time, or if she does, she feels that lack of connection. It also happens in the moments when you come home and you're speaking with her and there's something on your mind, or you guys are multitasking. And I know she does this to you too. Look, she's not perfect, but that is your job as the leader in the marriage to say, hey, if we're going to speak to each other, let's connect. Because you can be in the same room with her, but not be connected to her, which is why when you're laying in bed with her, she's so close to you, but feels so far away. When she's on her phone scrolling, yeah, she's doing the same thing because you led that. And you have to recognize that a lack of presence to a woman, think of this from a biological perspective. Put yourself in your wife's position. To her, you are the guy that's supposed to protect her, to keep her safe. So from a biological perspective, even if you know this isn't true, it's how she feels, so it doesn't matter how you feel, right? If you're not giving her presence when you are talking with her, in her mind, she's creating a story that you don't think about her, that she's not number one, she's not a priority in your life. And if a wife isn't a priority, yes, if something was going wrong, you would help her, but she is only taking information that she feels from you. So that lack of presence over the years, she's associating with a distracted man, with a man that doesn't make her a priority, with a man that doesn't care. Whether you do or you don't, it doesn't matter. Your actions are speaking louder. So naturally, when she brings things up to you that she's upset about, you go into the second behavior that creates a lack of safety, which is your lack of ownership. Look, I know when she's telling the story about the past things that have happened, or she has her perspective and you're like, okay, if she saw my perspective, she wouldn't feel this way. I have to put out my case and show her that she needs to understand me. Well, the thing is that you don't understand how her mind works. And whenever you defend yourself, even though you feel like you're being attacked, whether it's her tone, it's just a subjective view on the situation, or she's having all these facts and she's drawing conclusions that aren't true about your perspective. I get how that feels. It doesn't feel good. It's like you want to change your mind, but you're misunderstanding how her mind operates. It operates from an emotional perspective, which is when she feels that way, nothing you do to defend yourself is going to help her change the way she feels. You're going to own up to the behaviors that you have. Let her have her story, validate that story. Don't defend yourself. She sees that you understand her perspective. And when she feels understood, then she will calm down. And when she calms down, then you can share your perspective. That is taking ownership. See, your ego, it wants it. You don't want to feel like you're a bad man. She's painting you out to be this like bad guy, and you know you're not. And that feels horrible to think that someone that knows you so close, that loves you, is painting you in a bad picture. But here's the thing. She is pointing at parts of you that you do need to improve. They're called shadows, and you are denying them. I'm not going to go into shadow work in this video. I have one on the channel. I'll probably put it at the end of this video so you can see it, but your shadow is blinding you to these things in you that you don't want to change, but you have to change it. She's been showing you as a gift. And so you must start owning up to your mistakes. And if you want to take this even further, taking proactive measures to grow yourself. I mean, that is leadership. And your lack of leadership over the years has also made her feel unsafe. Now, I talk about leadership in 2 domains. I talk about micro leadership and macro leadership. Micro leadership is easy, and I highly suggest you start doing it, right? I mean, it's making decisions. It is saying to yourself, look at yourself in the mirror and say, I am a leader. I'm going to make decisions. Yeah, I know I don't really care too much where we eat tonight. I know we don't care too much what we do on the weekend, but I'm going to make plans. I'm going to be the leader in this household. Even though it's not my default and I want things just to be easy, you're going to make the decisions because it makes her happy. When you take charge, when you give her the gift of not having to decide, she can still voice her opinion. But when you give her the gift of grabbing her by the hand, emotionally, figuratively, sometimes literally, and saying, we're going here. This is what's best for us, right? She's lacked trust in you to do that over the years because you haven't done it, but you could still step back into that. The macro leadership is where you're taking the family. Look, one thing I want to do with my family and make it a routine is twice a year, I want to do a retreat with my wife, and I want to go plan, like, what was our past 6 months like? What are our goals individually across different domains, as a family, as a couple, right? And I want to, every 6 months, it's almost like if you have a business, it's like you do your quarterly reports and on the goals you have, but I want to do that twice a year. And that's an example of macro leadership. It's so easy. It's such a default for as a man to just go through the routine, go through your life and never take a step back and be like, wow, I'm 50 years old now, or I'm 45 years old. Where did the past 10 years go? You need these moments to examine your life and say, where am I leading my own life? Where am I leading my wife? Where am I leading my marriage? A divine man does that. And a man that can do that is a woman that follows. And the best form of leadership right now is to do something different for your marriage. Now, selfishly, I know that we can help you. I know that I can personally help you. I spend my life devoted to this. We have a free evaluation call that you can set up with our marriage evaluators down below, where you can take leadership right now by setting up a call with our team, giving you exactly the blueprint about what caused your marriage to fall apart, and then the steps to go forward to save it. Make sure you are fully committed and emotionally invested to make that change, and we got you. The fourth area that causes her to feel unsafe around you is your lack of being a man of your word, not having integrity, where she can't trust you. A lot of guys, when they hear their wife say, I don't trust you, they're like, I've never cheated on you. I've never directly lied to you, but you're not transparent and you're not being a man of your word. And it is so subtle. Women are so attuned to what you are saying versus what you are doing. It's a survival mechanism they have, right? Because it's, again, the safety. So there are probably things that you said you would do across your life or in the marriage. There's promises that you had made across your marriage and for yourself, whether it was a side business you were going to start, a project on the house, taking her on a vacation a certain time of the year, buying her this, doing this for the kids. But of course, life changed and now you can't do it because the circumstances changed. So why can't you change your mind? But to a woman, she notices a pattern. You see, if you're saying one thing just to make her happy, just to appease her, but deep down you're like, can I actually do it? You shouldn't say it. Okay, you should just be honest with upsetting her in the moment. Then I feel like you have to say certain things to make her happy. And that's hard for a lot of guys. I know I personally struggle with that. I know in my relationship, there are times where she's asked me to do things and I wanted to look at her and be like, yes, but I knew I'd be lying because I wasn't 100% sure. So I had to be honest and upset her in the moment and say, I don't think I could do that, but I will let you know when I can. And I want to be able to do that, but right now I can't. And it upset her and I had to sit in that conflict. But what's the alternative? The alternative is you look at her in the eyes and you lie to her, saying, yes, this thing will happen. Yes, we will move to this place in a few months or do this, whatever it is. You can go back over the course of your marriage and you've made lots of promises that you didn't keep. Whether the circumstances changed or not, she has a track record of all the times you've been, man of lack of integrity. And it is a pattern. So within yourself, this is one thing that we can personally help out on the call, is to track, where did that come from? That part of you that feels like you have to lie, that you have to make these false promises to make her happy. And you can't stand firm in who you are and own your own value. Because ultimately what you'll find is this last behavior ties into that, which is your neediness, your lack of confidence in yourself. At the end of the day, this is the universal wound that every man shares within our program. I was on a group call. I take my calls on Fridays with the guys, like 70 plus men on this call, and just all supporting each other. And we were all getting to the place of shame and how deep down we adopted stories about ourselves that we're somehow not good enough because of the things that happened to us and the things we've done. And really, her pulling away shattered your confidence more than anything else. But that's because you tied up your self-worth into her opinion, her approval of you, and your identity as a husband. And so when she started to pull that way, of course, there's nothing left. But you have to see that this is a huge gift for you, because now that you're broken apart, you're falling apart, it is a gift because you're able to look inside of yourself and say, where did I lose myself? How did I lose myself? In my previous relationship, this happened to me. It was a woman that I just was like, I thought this was the one. I jumped at the relationship and I slowly started sacrificing pieces of myself. I stopped doing things that made me who I love that I was. I stopped playing soccer. I played soccer my whole life. I stopped hanging out with friends. I invested everything into this business and the relationship, and that's it, right? And I know the irony because I was working with couples at the time. So it's like I was doing it, but also, your mess becomes your message, right? But I can relate to a man that falls apart like that. I saw my father do the same thing. It's probably where I learned it, right? But the thing is, her pulling away and leaving me and cheating on me, that was an opportunity to look at myself and say, where did I lose myself? Did she really leave who I actually was? Because you haven't been your best self with her. You've been falling apart. You've been needy. That's not your authentic self. I know at one point when you met her, you were so confident, self-loving, in the moment, free-flowing. I can go on, right? Your apex self that we teach here in this channel. But when you put her as your priority, that she's on that pedestal, she doesn't feel safe. She wants to look up to you. So this is about rebuilding yourself, but first you have to look in to see how you fell apart. So you know that the lack of emotional safety is why she's pulling away, why she's shifted the way she feels. And you know the 5 common mistakes you've made in your behaviors that has created lack of safety. The next part of this video, I'm gonna give you the 2 most advanced concepts that I teach that's gonna have so much potential growth if you use them successfully. You know, one thing I can't teach you that you have to find from within is the same reason why you would book a call with us. I used to get on onboarding calls when the guy would first come into the program, and I would have that first hour showing him the program, listening to his story, and then giving him direct advice based on his story. But I would always ask the first question the same. I would ask him, I want you to imagine you wake up 90 days from now, boom, a miracle occurs where you have the perfect scenario with your wife. Walk me through that perfect day in detail with how you feel on that perfect day with her. And I would notice a distinct difference between the men who eventually struggled in the program until they got it versus the ones that just excelled and won their wife back in sometimes 6 to 8 weeks. The men that won their wife back in 6 to 8 weeks, they all did the same thing. They all painted me a very clear picture with detail with exactly how they felt with their wife. Where the other men, you would hear them start to say, oh, it would be a good day. And then they would start to go into the problem. She would make me breakfast, but then we probably do this. And then she would want to fight about it. So right now you have a certain amount of belief that you can actually save your marriage. And belief is something that I cannot teach you. I show you testimonials of guys saving the marriage with the most drastic situations. And I ask every single time I get on a testimonial call for a guy who saved his marriage, I ask him the same thing. What gave you the belief?
I knew I wanted it to work, but I also knew that she was dead set on it not working.
Yep.
And that's why I was telling you, I decided I'm going to do everything possible. And then if she decides it doesn't work, that's on her. But I still think there was a certain amount of arrogance and cockiness to me at that point. So
you call it cockiness, I call it confidence, right? But I have found 2 techniques that you can use. Starting in this video, you can pause the video, do them, and you're going to feel so much more better. You're going to have a lot more belief. The first one is living out your worst case scenario. A lot of men are afraid of this because they think if I give it energy and thought, it might happen. Well, the opposite is actually true. Your fear is already there. But if you were to play it out and say, okay, what if I did go through divorce with her? What if I had to go through mediation, tell the kids, all this money, move out? It's horrible, awful. It sucks. Walk through the whole scenario though. What would happen? See, the thing is, you're not entirely sure. But if you picture yourself in that worst case scenario, by yourself in your own apartment, living your life, doing what you do, eventually would you be happy? Like I can tell you the ending. A lot of men, if they do the work, if they actually look at what caused the divorce, they become a better man. If they go through divorce, they sometimes win their wife back because they became a better man, right? They get her back after the divorce. It happens all the time. Or they date a woman that's even better. And they look back actually on the divorce with gratitude, as hard as it is to see. I'm not saying that's going to be you, but if you accept the worst possible scenario, that you're still going to be fine, that you're going to be alive, that you're going to be happy again, it removes fear out of the equation. And fear is like muddy water. You can't see clearly about what to do, what's best for you. And the second most powerful thing that you can do to increase your belief is to focus on the process of this over the outcome. A lot of men who join my program who don't watch the YouTube videos, they go straight from the ads and they go through and the sales team, they understand this when they come into the program. But if you see my videos before, you understand that yes, my program will help you save your marriage. But what it really does is it helps you become the best version of yourself, better than you were before. Your peak of who you are as a man, not just externally in your fitness and your work, which happens, but your internal message, your internal values of who you are, your core principles and beliefs, confidence. That's what I help you become. Therefore, you get the best possible probability of winning her back because attraction is not a choice. And if you become that man, she will feel that and she comes back. I've seen it too many times and I say this as clear as water is wet, fire is hot. Your wife comes back when you're the best version of yourself, period. And that happens when you focus on yourself, when you put your ego aside and you say to yourself, I want to be a better man for myself. Because when you focus on her, she'll know intuitively that if she comes back, you will go back to the same way. So find the reason within yourself that you want to do this for you.
It's, I think overall, it's the mindset shift. Don't worry about her, worry about you. Be better for maybe her, but for you anyway. And whatever the future is. So I think it's just that mindset of like, man, focus on you and she will react to the better you when she is ready to react to the better you.
The label in the program is focusing on the process versus the outcome, right? Now, the last thing I want to show you is something I never shared before on this channel, but I heard a guy talk about it the other day in my group call, and I was like, you know what? I used to be a dating coach. This makes sense, so I'm going to share it with you. So the idea here is about role plays. You see, right now, your wife sees you in the husband role and her in the wife role as pain. The marriage equals pain. So this is why she doesn't want to talk about problems. And for you, it's like, how can you be happy? And like, there's this giant elephant in the room that says like possible divorce on his body. And you're like, let's talk about this thing. And you're like, like, she's like, no, I don't want to. It's too much. It hurts to look at the elephant. And so you have to understand the idea of the magic relationship ratio I talk about a lot on this channel. You have to recognize that the more positive interactions you have on a positive investment on this side of the scale compared to this side of the scale. Okay, so this is the emotional tipping scale. And the idea here is that there's positive and negative interactions in her emotional bank account. This is in her subconscious mind. She dictates how she sees things, what she thinks, and what she does based on how she feels, period. So the idea here is that you create more positive emotional investments to make her feel differently. When she feels differently, she literally acts differently, right? It's pretty straightforward. A lot of guys, they want to talk about the giant elephant in the room of like the problems of a divorce. And what happens is that she feels the pressure and it's just adding more sides of the negative scale. And she's just like, I don't want this. Like, leave me alone. But if you know how to start dating your wife again, that is the role. Don't see her as your wife. See her as someone you are dating. Let me give you an example of an interesting story that I had with an early on client that I worked with. He was struggling in his marriage, right? And we were talking one-on-one. He went on a vacation with his wife. And my idea told him to go on vacation, just have a good time. There was a moment where she was in the bathroom getting ready for dinner and they were having a great day so far. And he couldn't go to the bathroom and he was in his underwear. He didn't want to go outside. She's like, well, she just got in there. I'm going to fart. So he farted. She hated when he farted around her. Hated it. She happens to come out and ask him a question after he did it. Of course, she smelt it, got pissed off at him. Why do you do this? It's so gross, blah, 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 blah. He gets defensive, defends himself. I couldn't do anything about it. Like, what am I supposed to do? Back and forth, negative investment. What do you think would happen in that moment if that was like the first vacation they ever took in the first couple months? How would he have handled that? He probably would have laughed at it, right? He probably would have apologized about it, laughed. It was like, I'm so sorry, my bad. Even if she got upset, he would have made it light. That is one example of many about the power of seeing your wife as someone you are dating instead of someone that you are married to with years of experience. Because there's all these memories and residual things going on. But if you can keep it light and be happy around her, as hard as that is with how you feel right now, if you're able to see her as someone you're dating again, you keep it light, you build these positive emotional investments, and eventually you go back to a positive 5-to-1 ratio, and she starts to see you differently because of how she feels around you. That's how this process works. I wanted to leave you that little tidbit. There are 2 videos right here that I highly recommend you watch that I mentioned to you. Here's a subconscious one on the shadow work stuff, and here's one on another guy's story that saved his marriage in our program. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.